Welcome to the Vegan Squad Pod, a podcast made to inspire vegans to become activists. Join us and our guests as we deep dive into effective forms of activism that we believe will change the world. Whether it's going to vigils, building a physique that shows people we don't need to eat animals, public speaking, or any other form of activism that you'll hear on this podcast, we want to empower you to find your voice and to speak up for justice. Thank you so much for being here and enjoy the episode.
Right. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Vegan Squad Pod. Today, we got somebody very interesting that's done some things I think I've never seen before in the world of veganism and fitness and activism. So we got Sergeant Vegan. That's his handle, but he goes also by his regular name, Bill Muir. Is that how I spell it? Muir. Yeah. So I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person, and we've known each other, I think, for several years online.
Yes, sir.
Jordan is out sick today, so our thoughts are with you, Jordan. Thank you for taking care of you. But I am joined with Alex, aka your Vegan Mentor One, here on the side. Alex, you want to say hello?
What's up, y'all? I'm excited. Bill, we met once, but I don't know much about you, so I'm excited to learn more about you and yeah, just talk. It's gonna be awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. So what we'll do today for everybody, we'll dive into Bill's backstory, learn a bit about him, why he became vegan, what he's done with it. Spoiler alert, he actually served in the armed forces as a vegan. So I think there's a lot to unpack there. I think for a lot of people, I think that is just incredible. No excuses. And we're going to dive deeper into activism because Alex and I and Jordan decided that we wanted to use the Vegan Squad Pod to connect with activists around the world that have had a significant impact and who have no doubt learned on their journey. And over the next 50 to 100 episodes, we will learn a lot, and then we can compile all that together and share it with everyone. So really excited to have you here, Bill. And I know you're not based out of Florida like where we are. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Los Angeles, California. Originally from Philadelphia, but now here in LA.
Oh,
Hey.
Alex, you spent some time up in Philly.
Yeah, I was born and raised partially in Los Angeles and partially in Philly. So we're like,
Well, where in Philadelphia?
Bensalem, like Bucks County, a little bit outside of
So,
Philly. But
were you raised there?
yeah.
So, not to get off on a big tangent, but I was raised in Lansdowne, Pennsylvania, but I don't have a strong Delco accent. Have you noticed that you have a Delco accent?
You know, I don't think so. My family is Ukrainian, and my first language was actually Russian. So I didn't learn English till I was 6. So I feel like I'd never picked up on an area's language wherever I lived because I just didn't speak the language till I was 6. But yeah, I don't know if I've noticed the Delco accent just in general, to be honest.
There's a bunch of little things like one of my sisters still lives there, and we'll say wooder, WOODER, for the thing you drink, also known as agua. And I had a patient who's like, "Yeah, I need a cup of water," and I was like, "Oh, you're from Delco."
That's how you know. Sure, I forgot about that. Yeah, it's always funny or cool to hear different verbiages and stuff from different areas. Like I was in Pittsburgh for a long time, and when they say clean up a room, they say red up a room, and super random, but yeah.
Or Hoover instead of vacuum.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's always fun. But cool. I'm happy that we relate. I wonder if anyone else in the audience relates.
Cool. Well, actually, getting back to we'll go off on probably many tangents. That's how this rolls.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to why you're here, let's talk about you, Bill. What was your vegan journey? What helped you wake up? We all had a different one.
So mine was completely by accident. To set the stage of starting, I guess, first going vegetarian. The year was 1992, and I would have been a freshman in college, 18 years old. My mom asked me what I was going to give up for Lent, and as a snarky teenager, I was like, "What can I tell this lady that would I guess annoy her? I guess as a jerky teen," and I was like, "I'm going to go vegetarian." This was pre-internet and pre-blue zones and all that. And besides the fact that it was as it is still now for some reason considered a hippie thing, it was also considered extremely unhealthy. So people were like, whoa, how are you going to like survive? Just, and Lent is only, was it 60 days? They're like, how are you going to not, eat meat for 60 days? Almost like meat is oxygen. But as you could guess, I lived through that harrowing experience being vegetarian for 60 days. And so people are like, well, somehow you didn't die. Like I had just like lived on top of Everest for 60 days. And they're like, well, you didn't die. You're going to eat meat now, right? And I was like, well, I mean, why would I change? Then just around that time, I accidentally got a hold of a PETA pamphlet at a punk rock show talking about how meat is murder and things with slaughterhouses. And I was like, my 18-year-old brain, I was like, did I accidentally do something awesome? Like I had done this kind of like snarkily, and here it could actually be something great. So I had to get like probably had to read a book. It's not like nowadays where you could just do a search on your phone because there were no handheld devices at that point. Uh, and then I was like, whoa, this is something I'm doing now. So I was vegetarian. I didn't know any vegans, and I hadn't even heard the word. And that probably lasted about 4, 5, 6 months. And I got a hold of yet another PETA. Sorry, it looked like we dropped for a second. Another punk rock show, and it talked about the connection between the slaughter industry and the dairy industry. And I had like an epiphany at then 19 years old that if the dairy industry and the slaughter industry are linked, it's like eating a cheese sandwich is basically the same thing as a cheeseburger. And I was like, well, it really comes down to this. How much animal cruelty am I okay with? And if the answer is 0, then I have to be this new word I just learned, vegan. And as you would guess, my parents nor anyone I knew at the time thought that was a good idea. No one thought it was cool for sure. But I went vegan, and the rest is history. And then, kind of through the underground, I heard maybe 2 or 3 years later of a band called Earth Crisis that was basically championing all of our ideals, talking about animal liberation in like 1993, 1994, and it really emboldened me to speak up for the animals and say what I thought would make the world a better place. And it's just incredible how that small movement just blossomed.
Let me get you real quick, Bill. If you can check your camera icon and see if you can flick that back on, because we're not getting video on you right now.
Oh.
And while you're doing that, I'll tell a little story that's like, it's funny how the universe kind of, at least for me, it feels like I get these little
How's that
little
now?
hints.
I can see me recording.
I don't see you right now.
Do you want to leave and rejoin? Hopefully that will fix it.
Yeah, try refreshing, sure. And we'll hop it back in. You just want to make note, Alex, about 8:30, 8 minutes and 30 seconds in.
Okay, yeah. Oh, oh my gosh, sorry, Don. Dang, still blacked out. It's so weird.
Is that better?
Still blacked out for some reason. Y'all want to move over to Zoom?
I can see all 3 of us.
That's so weird.
What is your camera input? Is it connected to the correct camera?
I don't know. I can send you a screenshot of this. I mean, everything.
Yeah, if you click the camera icon at the bottom, the second from the left, does it have the correct hookup there? As either your local camera or a plugged-in webcam? Camera?
I think he's just on his phone. Oh,
there we go.
Okay,
got him. All right, so we'll edit that. But what I was gonna say is it's interesting to me how like certain things happen in the universe, or at least that's how I choose to interpret it. Yesterday I was at the gym talking to two kids, and funny enough, we got you coming on the podcast, and they were like asking me about lifting, and then I was like, well, like 3 minutes in, I was like, I'm vegan, and it's all over me. It's on my clothes on my head, but they hadn't seen it. They're like, dude, no way. We actually just gave up meat on Fridays for Lent, so like we eat vegan on Fridays, and I'm like, so funny you say that, Bill. And then I told them to go eat at Frenchman Street Food here in Gainesville, Florida, and the owner of
Wait,
Frenchman
you're in
Street Food,
Gainesville?
yep,
I lived there for a year and a half. There was a half vegan ice cream shop and a whole bunch of stuff. And in the
yeah,
2010s,
I was here. I was in like my first year of college
wow,
or last year of high school. Yeah, last like actually those are kind of the same. I dual enrolled my last year of high school. So yeah, like we could have potentially bumped into one another. Karma Cream, they're actually fully vegan on the ice cream now.
really?
For some reason, they carry whole milk for people that want milk in their coffee. I don't get it. Everything else is vegan, all the bakery, everything else. But I told these guys to go to Frenchman Street Food, and the owner of that is super into punk rock, and that I think might have been part of either his community or what helped him wake up to veganism. And then also for me, like not just talk about myself, but it's interesting to see the stories. Like I had a friend that helped me go vegetarian, helped me wake up. She exposed me and basically said, if you keep eating hamburgers, you're killing a cow. And I was like, that actually makes sense. It took me few months for it to click, but it made sense. And then a PETA magazine helped me realize every dairy cow dies just like a meat cow. Like every
Yep.
dairy cow ends up turned into a hamburger. They don't go like, what do you think happens to them after they live their life? If you're a vegetarian and you think about it, if you went vegetarian for the animals, like those dairy cows don't get a happy life once they're done making milk. And I would argue they don't have a happy life while they're being forced to make milk and have their babies taken from them. So
No.
interesting that we had some intersectionality there. Also, you mentioned 1992. That was the year I was born. So you've been
Oh
doing
wow.
this, like it feels like I've done it for a long time because I went vegan in like '05, but you've been on this journey yourself for a very long time. So you've probably seen a lot of things. Like you said, the movement has changed in that time or taken off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just so awesome to see this, what I would say, social justice movement blossom, and to be there. I mean, I wouldn't say at the beginning, because I mean, well, the term vegan was coined in 1950, I believe. So I wasn't alive, and my parents would have been kids at that point. And you could argue there were hippies in the 60s and 70s who were vegan. They just didn't have the, probably didn't even say the word then. But pretty much, I mean, I went vegan pre-internet, and then just as the internet kicked off. Um, so yeah, it's just been awesome to see it go from like basically shitty falafel to now where Beyond and Impossible are at. It's just great.
it's it's become better for us as consumers. Um, I also think culturally and community based things for vegans is also growing. I mean, I can't imagine like back in the 90s, early 2000s, I bet you very rarely like found any other vegans. I mean, especially before social media. Like, did you have any vegan friends or connections back then without
So
social media?
that's kind of a punk rock advantage. And for the longest time, it was really only two types of people who, which you guys are probably neither, would be vegans. It was punk rock kids, and I mean, like now I'm wearing a vegan power sweatshirt, uh, partly because I wanted to quote unquote look cool. But I'm only look this the wearing something vegan is something that looks cool generally to other vegans. So this is the kind of thing that I would wear in college, that very underground bands would make. Either Earth Crisis or well, Strife wasn't a vegan band, but they were a straight edge band. But I would wear one of their shirts, and someone else would probably be wearing something and be like, whoa, you're a hardcore kid too, are you vegan? And it was very easy to pick people like that out because everybody else, I mean, in a sea of normies, it's very easy to pick out people who are intentionally wearing something that says vegan on it, or you know, looks different. In when I moved post college to Japan, well, then I also knew people who were vegetarian or vegan, but then that was also mostly the punk rock scene. There were a lot of people, as you would guess, who would be also kind of into like I guess then they would have called it an alternative lifestyle. Now, I mean, I think vegan is we're closely hitting 10% of our population, and at that point, I don't know if we need to call that you know, it we should be moving past it just being a vegan option and there's something vegan on the menu everywhere. Hopefully.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're moving in that direction. I love that you're wearing vegan shirts like in the 90s. I feel like that's such an awesome form of activism. Like we all wear vegan shirts in the vegan squad too, and it's just a great way to connect with people. Also, slight tangent, but I love that you met so many vegans in the punk rock scene because I also listened to a lot of metal music when I was growing up, and I was a punk rock kid too. And I feel like people's perception of metal and like that music realm, like I think people think we're all just like emo and like depressed and sad and like angry, but really like all of the people that I met at like various Warped Tour concerts or other metal concerts, everyone's so nice, and it shows that the people really are compassionate and like awesome humans. So I love that you met so many compassionate, like hearted people in the punk rock community. It just disproves that whole narrative that we're told by society.
Give me 3 bands you're listening to now.
Honestly, I'm out of it now, but my favorite bands were Bring Me the Horizon, Wage War, and probably Of Mice and Men. They're more like newer, but those are probably my top three.
I don't have much experience there. So
It's okay.
And at this, I think as I've gotten older and lived through the scene, I've realized that with veganism, it's good to have such a wide tent that we get everybody. And again, as as I was younger, it was literally the hippies and the hardcore kids or the punk kids. Now I think it's better that it's not just secluded to that, and it's so amazing, and it just blows the doors off all these myths of vegans not being able to get yoked, that we have bodybuilders in here as well. So I don't think I think any kind of gatekeeping that anyone would do and say, oh, you have to be able to name it rapid fire off the top of your head 3 bands, punk rock bands, to be considered vegan or whatever. Whoever would have gate kept something like this and tried to keep it to that is so limiting. And realizing, I mean, we need a wide tent, and just I don't know. I'm just so stoked that we have bodybuilders in our scene. I mean, I lift, but I don't consider myself a bodybuilder. I don't know. I'm just pretty stoked that veganism is where it is, and I know there's a lot of people whining about how it's not like it wasn't in 2018 when people first started to open their eyes to the money that could be made off of backs of vegans. I don't know. I think I think we went from when I was vegan to like negative percentages to actual numbers, but it was slightly inflated because people were like, "Oh, is this the end of meat eating?" Like no, that crap isn't going to just die off from natural causes. The meat and dairy industry aren't going quietly. Obviously, there's billions and I don't know, probably trillions of dollars mixed up in that garbage. They're not going to give it up. I mean, not to get social justice warriory, but similar to how slavery didn't just we weren't able to just be like, hey, this is human beings, guys. We shouldn't be doing that. And the people who were profiting off the slave labor were like, you know what? Oh, now that you said it like that, you're right. Let's just emancipate everybody and we'll have a free society. No, they were like, now we got to kill 1 million people before we let that go. And you could argue in 2026, we're still fighting that. So no, it's not going to go quietly.
yeah, we are. I'll put my views out there. Like, I mean, I'm not here to like intentionally upset anyone, but we still have slavery in the United States. I mean, if you look at us and then you look at Germany from World War II, Germany now doesn't incarcerate more Jews. They don't pull Jews over more while driving because they're Jewish. They aren't given stricter sentencing if they're Jewish. Germany still teaches about what they did to the Jewish population in schools, and they are publicly ashamed of it. And so they don't have any World War II German statues of generals or people like that. They've gotten rid of all that shit. And here in the United States, we still got Confederate war monuments. We incarcerate people of black or brown skin way higher than whites. And like, yeah, we haven't fixed it here. So it's still going on. But like, I think another way to try to help vegans is to be more out there and wear it more. Like I'm really blown away that you were wearing vegan shirts for that long. Like for me, it took 15 years to put one on because like I did not have any other vegan friends. I didn't have any other influence really until I started to find people like you, Bill, on social media. Same, that's how I found Alex as well, and started to realize like, oh, you can wear this, you can talk about this, you can put this out there. And I saw a reel on Instagram that really just hit home. They're like, imagine you wake up and the year is 1829 and you decide, and you're in the South, like in the United States, you're in the South, and you're like, oh my gosh, my family is a slave, owns slaves, I own slaves, my neighbors own slaves, but like this is wrong. And so you start to say, well, I'm not okay with this, so I'm going to free my slaves. But then do you speak up? Do you speak up for the slaves that your family owns, for the slaves that your neighbors own? Do you put that out there, or do you just stay quiet and say, "Ah, that's their choice. They can. It's their journey. They'll wake up when they want to." And it's like I want that same thought process to be had for all the vegans that listen to this, because it's like it's great that you're vegan. It's awesome. Like I'm proud that I was vegan for 15 years, but I wish I would have been an activist the whole time. If I could go back, it would have even made my life easier. If I like you were saying, Bill, it was easy to pick out the weird looking ones, but if you got the vegan shirt on, you're gonna find more friends if you can put it out there. So yeah, I think it's really cool that you were doing that for such a long time. And I think we saw a bubble in 2018. Like it became
Yeah.
trendy for a bit, and then it dropped back down to how many people were really vegan for the animals, but still more exposed. More exposure is always a good thing here. So I just rambled a bit, but I'm curious, Bill. So what makes you different from I think anyone else that I know is being, or you were active duty in the military as a vegan. Do you know anyone else that's done that? I mean, maybe you do, because maybe you know more people in that field, but I don't think I've met anyone else.
Shout out to Josh Ham. He's still active duty. He's vegan. I don't know where he joined as a normie and then went vegan. I don't think he did Ranger School vegan, but he was a Ranger at one point. It's one of those, being vegan and being really anything in the military is one of those things. If you can manage to not stand out, kind of like that old Japanese saying that the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. If you can not stick out, then you could maybe make it through stuff like that. Or once you're at your spot, you could probably get away with it. And side note, there's going to be vegan MREs, one of the maybe kind of glimmering little spots of hope in the late 2020s. There's going to be vegan MREs coming around the corner, which, I mean, we've been fighting for years. I did something with Mercy for Animals where we had a campaign to try to push and pressure to have vegan MREs, because they have vegetarian MREs currently, but they don't serve a majority of people who need plant-based meals, whether it's someone who's eating kosher, halal, or vegan like myself. And I'm happy that they're making that progress.
Just to pause, what is a MRE?
Oh, well, thank you very much for asking. And I should probably talk about joining the military and that thought process of joining the military as a vegan. So, an MRE Uh, Stands for meals, comma, ready to eat.
Okay.
And they come in this, I think it's like a brownish beigeish package. It's about a pound, and you open it up, open this thick plastic thing up, and then you have an entire meal set with a main course, snacks, beverage powders. Well, while I was in the military, there was only one accidentally vegan entree, and that was the bean burrito, and it was also discontinued because I guess they were trying to fuck over Sergeant Vegan here. So it was very hard to get a full meal. So what I would do is what we called rat fuck, which was you go through a box and you pull out random things that you could eat. So I could eat the wheat snack bread, I could eat the peanut butter, I could eat the I guess the fruit. They had like a shitty kind of fruit cocktail in one of them, applesauce, and then there was a raspberry applesauce. And I would basically cut and ruin a whole bunch of meals, pulling out the packages that I could eat, take that stuff, discard the rest, and then eat. But I mean, that was not economical and probably wasted some money. And from personal perspective, it was very hard to get enough calories doing that because usually, if you eat the entire MRE, it's like 2,500 calories. Which, if you eat 3 of those a day, there's no way that you're not getting fat. But we would often get stuck with just one a day, which is you're probably not eating enough. And then I could only eat maybe 40% of whatever MRE I found myself with, which is not a good way to get enough sustainability.
Totally. Yeah. I just want to say, I feel like when you're vegan for the animals and you are against cruelty, like you find any way to not consume animal products, even if it's so difficult. Like anybody, I mean, if your why is not strong enough, you could have absolutely just been like, okay, I'm just going to eat the MRE that I have. But you made it a point to go and find food that you can eat because your why was so strong, and I just really admire that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's really awesome. And so you're now working on getting more vegan option or more vegan MREs out there.
So I participated in a campaign with Mercy for Animals maybe 2 years ago that talked to congressmen and a whole bunch of different stuff. And there was a media campaign as well that along with it. And I was very surprised that this is going to be the result. Usually, especially with this administration, but usually with the government, it's like it moves like pond water unless it's something bad. And then if it's something bad, things tend to happen very quickly. But to just announce that, oh yeah, we're going to change the MREs over to the vegetarian won't be vegetarian anymore, they'll be vegan, which back in the day, vegetarian was a catch-all for all of us. But nowadays, vegetarian is, at least for us, clearly delineated between doesn't have meat but has dairy. It's still a non-food item to, a catch-all.
Yeah, yeah.
That's side note. That's why when people, I know some people in the vegan scene are very anti-vegetarian. I still think we need to think like big tent movement and include them, though I would prefer that people who were vegetarian would also be vegan. But
Yeah, it's hard to have that conversation with some people. Some people are open and ready to hear it the way that both of you were. I mean, you both started vegetarian and then you learned what happens and you decided to make the change. But some people are like, I'm doing enough, or, it takes time. But I agree, let's invite them in and show them what it's like to be vegan and show them that they're not going to lose anything by not eating dairy or eggs. I also wanted to thank both of you for paving the path for newer vegans like me and for the vegan world that exists. Like Bill, you were talking about how now there's vegan bodybuilders in the scene. All of the work that you're doing as someone who's in the military who's changing the MREs for current people who are serving. The reason why the world exists now where there are bodybuilders and there are more vegan MREs is because of people like you who continue to speak up and advocate and show people that you can exist and have this lifestyle and do all the things that you want to do as a vegan. There's no loss. So I just want to say thank you to both of you for creating the movement that we have today. Like it all comes from the consumer and also people speaking up. So thank you both.
thank you.
Thank you, Alex. He's so sweet. Um, so I do, Bill. Before we get too into the weeds, I want to go back to like, why'd you join the military? You're already vegan. Like, I'm curious. I think other people are going to be like, if you're vegan, you can't be in the military. You can't do that. So I'm curious to hear your side on it.
I'm definitely going to tell you the story, but first, I think it's very important for the vegan movement in big picture to eliminate any of those, oh, if you're vegan, you can't do X, Y, or Z. Except I would hope that there aren't any vegan slaughterhouse workers because ick. But other than maybe that, I mean, or like being a vegan ice Asian, I don't know. I would like to, because ugh, but I would like to think that you could be vegan and do literally any job, and that being vegan shouldn't exclude you. It should, in my opinion, be a neutral at bare minimum, or give you a leg up in it. Like mean that if you're, for example, a vegan doctor, oh, you're eating the healthiest you can be because you're promoting health, so you can talk to your patients better about it. Even if you're not talking explicitly about a vegan or plant-based lifestyle, you should at least be, the healthiest you can be. So my journey into joining the military. So in 2001, 9/11, I was living in Japan. And at the moment of the planes hitting the towers, I was walking back from work because of the time difference. It would have been like 10 at night. And I worked nights because I did martial arts in the mornings, and then would mornings and afternoons, and then would go to work. So I was walking back from work and I got a text, and I looked at it and it was in Japanese, and I'm like, my Japanese isn't great, but like words that shouldn't go together are like plane, building, two, tall, and New York. Like that shit shouldn't go together. And I'm really tired, but it's weird that there'd be two planes in a building, or in a New York or something. And I'm like looking at this thing, and then I got a call. I'm like, are you going to explain this mishmash of words? And they were like, you need to watch the news. And I was being a punk rock kid. I didn't have a TV, so I had to like go to a neighbor's and not like literally knocked on the door. I was like, could I watch your like TV? And so I sat with the neighbor and watched 9/11 unfold. It really hit me. And in a similar way to where being vegan, I didn't see as a choice once I understood the situation as is, because I had just grown up like everybody else, being fed what my parents fed me. And then that's what I was eating until blinders off. Okay, you could choose. And I was like, well, of course I'm not going to choose cruelty. That's bullshit. And once I was exposed to what was happening and that we were going to war, I was like, oh, of course I'm going to serve my country and help. Like, this is my moment. And kind of similar to the vegan thing, it was just like, this is obviously what I'm going to do. Felt very strongly about saving lives and not taking them, so I became a medic. And that that's been with me now since I joined the military. And I'm now an RN, so what's that, 20 something years I've been doing that as a life path. Uh, Being vegan in the military then, and probably now, still not super easy. Why? Because it's an organization that tries to hammer down anyone that's standing out. And it makes sense. The military needs uniformity, and someone that kind of sticks out and is trying to do their own thing, thought process wise or eating process wise, could be seen as a liability, especially if you're talking about how you don't want to kill the fuzzy bunny rabbits when they're, talking about cyclical rates of 240 Bravo mowing people down or whatever. So yeah, and then being deployed as a vegan was in a lot of ways absurd. Um, while other people were worried about other things, getting ready for a mission, I was like, how much food can I pack? And also being deployed meant like literally, what am I going to eat on a daily basis, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. I can't even like take it for granted that I can go to the grocery store here whenever I want. Or, I can fast for a day and be all right. I'm not overseas in another country, limited on access to food. So I don't think I've said it yet this episode, but thank you for your service, Bill. I think you just must have a very strong sense of justice and morality to take this upon yourself to go vegan.
Yes, yes, but I'm also very stubborn, and I think that's a very important factor. Which I'm I'm very happy when we erase that as a necessity for the equation for other people. Um, like I think it's good that people can learn from our examples, but I would prefer being vegan to be an easy option for people, because when it's not, I can understand that someone is not going to be able to go the extra mile, or do something that's inherently difficult, or stand up to authority, or any of that. And I think that if we want this movement to blossom, like these should be stories that like become like campfire stories, kind of like, or like legends, but that in practicality, you know, if we look at like a normie versus you, we see a bodybuilder, and then some meat eating wimp is like, well, I can, barely do, just the bar, and here you are knocking it out of the park. Well, they're like, oh, okay, well. Or if I talk to people, I'm like, well, I served in a war. Used to jump out of planes for a living. What do you do? And they're like, well, CrossFit once a week. Well, what the fuck ever, It's I think being able to see that kind of also changes minds too. Uh, What to People often ask, like, how was it being vegan in the military? So practically speaking, yes, I starved in basic training. Straight up fucking starved. It was pretty lousy. It's not what I thought it was going to be. Like the suck is different. The suck is more, nobody's like, hey, motherfucker, you better eat meat, or, this sergeant's going to do this, that, no, none of that shit. It was, okay, you got like under 10 minutes, you got to make it in the chow hall, go through a line, sit, jam some shit down your throat, get out of there. Okay, well, what can I eat if we're going to talk breakfast? What can I eat that's vegan in the breakfast line? Nothing through the whole hotline. Now at least the oatmeal is vegan, but I don't even think then it was. So then I go through that whole thing. What can I eat? Nothing. So dry cereal, cornflakes are vegan. I mean, they're not particularly tasty, but they're vegan. How do you eat enough cornflakes knowing that there's no plant-based milk option, which there might be a plant-based milk option now. Now there was, when I was in the military, there wasn't a hemp milk, soy milk, oat milk, or any of that. There was just, I think they offered 2% or like whole fat, which I wasn't going to eat. So what do you eat for breakfast? So I'm like, okay, I can eat cornflakes. How do I get this down quicker? Because it's cutting my mouth, because it's all these, basically shards of corn glass. So how do I eat enough of this in my allotted time? So I realized if I put uh, fruit cocktail on it, it would moisten it, would soften it to a mush that I could basically shovel it down my throat. I think that kind of thing, in the practicality of, okay, you could be vegan in the military, but you might have to go through that. It's not going to make anyone want to do it. So that was just, basic training. Lunch and dinner would be, I didn't have to deal with cereal, but then it would be like, okay, there's nothing in the hotline. What can I eat? Wonder Bread and salad. So I would, and weirdly, they were sticklers about giving you enough peanut butter, because while you're not really going to build muscle on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, at least it's calories. But they were worried about people getting fat, so they would limit your peanut butter to like one little tablespoon cup, those jerks. And I lost, I think, 15 pounds in basic training, so in boot camp. So it wasn't like I was in danger of that.
Is that 8 weeks? 8 weeks or
Yeah, Army is 8 weeks. I believe the Marine Corps might be 12, which that's a different, there's a different reason. I think Marine Corps basic training is the finest basic training in the military, and they need longer to do it because you're really processing a new human. Whereas the Army, it's like, yeah, they teach you how to shoot. You do some PT, you learn a bunch of new words. It's the real brainwashery comes later, versus the Marine Corps. They really get it done, and they get it done right the first time. Which side note, I I would have loved to have gone through Marine Corps basic training. Even though, I mean, obviously, if the food thing was an issue with the Army, it would have been a gigantic issue with the Marine Corps. I don't know how I would have navigated that. It probably poorly, based on personal experience, but you make it through.
Yes, I wanna slow down real quick and maybe even challenge you a little bit.
Hit me.
So I think you're aware. You don't want to be like, well, I was vegan in the military and it was hard as fuck. So like now other people, oh, it's too hard to be vegan. Well, most people, 99 point probably 9% will never jump out of an airplane in their life. I've gone skydiving once, probably won't do it again. I think I'm too heavy now. So like you are an extreme example. So am I. And what I wanna make very clear, but I was a vegan before I got into bodybuilding. I've always been. It's funny that I'm the bodybuilding vegan. I really should be the vegan who bodybuilds, or the vegan bodybuilder, or maybe just the vegan, because like that's more near and dear to my heart. I'd rather be vegan than a bodybuilder if I had to pick one. Um, and so my point with you here is what you did was hard. However, most people aren't going to be doing that hard of things. However, if there is another stubborn person out there like you and they see that it's possible, like I saw Robert Cheek being a bodybuilder before I knew many others that were vegan. I was like, well, at least there's one else out there, one other person doing this. Maybe I can. And then I also think too, like, how many people do you think started playing basketball because of Michael Jordan? It's like if we got those extreme examples to look up to, it's like most people that pick up a basketball, they know they're not going to be Michael Jordan, but he might have inspired them to. Or same as how Arnold inspired a lot of people to lift weights. So I think by what you're doing is you you are inspiring. It's hard. It's hard to be the best in the NBA. It's hard to be the best in bodybuilding. It's hard to be a vegan in the military, but you proved it's possible. And so I think that carries a lot of weight. And I don't think many people are going to hear your story and be like, "Oh, I was going to join the military anyways, and I was going to go vegan anyways, but Bill said it's hard, so I'm not going to do it." So yeah, like I really think that on the one hand, I get you. We don't want to discourage people and say it's hard to be vegan. That's usually what I'll tell somebody if they're like, "Is it hard to be vegan?" I'm like, being vegan is easy. Like being a bodybuilder is hard, but vegan's easy.
I think, okay, let's be completely honest to the world and acknowledge that doing anything that's not exactly what everybody else is doing, I guess, is hard. Like you're not an automaton. You're thinking for yourself, and that's, I mean, you could, if you want to look at that as hard, then you're not wrong. Like if you're doing something, you're thinking for yourself, you're living out of the norm. like yeah, if you do exactly what everyone else is doing and you think the same way and you want to, listen to the same music or watch the same movies or vote the same way and not challenge anything, yeah, I mean, I guess that's an easier way to live. Do you really want to fucking live that way? Do you really want to, on your deathbed or your death chair or whatever it is? I don't know why you would want to live your non-unique self and you would want to just be exactly like everyone else. Like, yes, here's the complete and brutal truth. And some people have contacted me about being vegan in the military. Some of them weren't even vegan at the time. They were like, "Hey, I was thinking of joining and then going vegan." I'm like, "Dude, why would you do that? Like, it's more difficult. Like let me be clear, you're doing something that's difficult and choosing to do it in the most difficult way. Uh, I don't regret being vegan. I don't regret joining the military. But if my biggest regret in life was that I didn't make it into Ranger Regiment, then that would be a regret because that was seen with those people as a gigantic red flag as me being a tree hugger and not a life taker. And I have vegan tattooed on the back of my neck, which day one of joining Ranger Regiment, they saw that and they were like, "Oh, fuck this guy forever! Like, there's no fucking way we're gonna have this guy be a Ranger." Which why, as during an in-process brief, they said, "Men, Rangers are not soldiers. Rangers are motherfucking killers." Like we were in a way, talk about just like, and we're not even talking like a neutral, like you just kill someone. We're talking like a very different mentality, very different than what most people would if they joined the military would. I'm not sure why I watched Black Hawk Down as a kid and was like, that's the shit I want to do. But maybe that's my punk rock brain. I don't know. But if joining special operations was my biggest goal in life, then doing it as a vegan, it's like I chose like a handicap. Like I tried to be a major league baseball player with only one arm. You know what I mean? It's kind of similar to anything. Even I would say bodybuilding, because let's be fair. Like being a normie with anything in this world, they make it easier to be the 90%. But that doesn't mean that the 90% is right, especially when it comes down to what's destroying our planet: animal fucking agriculture. So, do you really want to contribute to what's destroying the planet by doing what everyone else is doing? No, I would argue no. Like, I think in 30 years where everyone's like finally like, oh no, like climate change is finally destroying the planet. Oh, we've been here all along saying that. Thank you for finally catching up. Secondly, if you're an animal lover, and I would say I've only met like a very small handful of non-animal lovers, people who genuinely uh, like have no empathy for other creatures, and mostly I met them in the military, and those were those just crazy whacked out examples of people that clearly do not give a fuck about human life or animal life. And if they were not in the military or doing something else, they might have been like, I don't know, serial killers or something. Other than that very small group of people, almost everyone I've met, to include my dad, who was a hunter, deep down inside, care about animals, deep down inside, would not hurt a puppy dog or something like that. So if we could figure out a way to translate to them, you wouldn't kick a dog. You're the type of person that gets emotional if they saw a dog in a hot car. You're gonna think that it might be okay to smash that window and rescue that dog. Well, how about that cow? Or how about somebody who open rescued like a chicken or something like that? Like, make it make sense. Put those values in line. I think probably 99% of the world is with us. We just haven't gotten around to figuring out the exact way to translate to them. Mostly because, like like I started this kind of rant with, veganism is a little bit harder just because not everyone's doing it.
That's a very fair and valid point. I think that is the only reason it's harder. I think even for bodybuilding, it's I don't think if I had a child or a young, like let's say somebody that's never bodybuilded, but if they had grown up vegan and knew how to eat as a vegan, I don't think they'd have any harder. And I have my clients back this up. Like I have real world examples of this, of even people that weren't born vegan that have still figured it out and gone further with eating plants. Even guys that are large and enhanced, fixing their blood work and having better health markers so that they can continue bodybuilding, but doing it on a plant-based diet. Um, I think if the whole world woke up tomorrow and it was just like you said, just a little bit easier to be vegan. Like if all the grocery stores only had vegan products and all the restaurants only had vegan products, and if you wanted meat, you had to go hunt or kill an animal yourself. 99.999% of people are lazy and just going to eat vegan, not because it's their ethical ideal or whatever, but just because it's easy. And so I think I have a good point there. I think the only like it is not hard in a vacuum to be vegan, to find food, to make progress in the gym, to be healthy, to eat tasty food. All that's super easy. The only I think truly the hardest part, at least for me, the hardest part, the differently than me or being different or me being considered different, it's having the ethical backing behind it. Like it's not like a diet. It's not like I'm keto or I'm following like low carb or high fruit. The hardest part, no, like what Gary Yourofsky said when he came on is he wasn't able to convince anyone from his family or his friends to go vegan, and he's convinced hundreds of thousands or even millions of people to go vegan. And so it's like to me that's the hard part.
Yeah, that is sad. That is a sad truth. My brother and I are both vegan, so I guess I got him on the same page. My dad's like a plant forward omnivore, and my sisters are kind of like maybe about the same. Which I always thought it was weird. My brother's law enforcement, and I'm ex-military, and that the guys with the most like traditionally macho kind of careers or something like that are the animal lovers, and that my sisters and my dad was an oceanographer, so and if you talk to him, you would think you're talking to a hippie. But that they still eat some animal products, it kind of doesn't make sense to me. I think if I'm not sure what it would take for them to be fully eyes opened. I mean, if at 30, I'm going on 34 years of ranting about this shit to them. So I don't know what it would have to be like a bat over the head, which I'm not willing to do. So
Yeah. I'm of the thought process that this is a revolution that we're leading, and it's just very early. We got maybe 1% on our side. Once we get to 50%, then this might be a little extreme, but we could pick up some bats or some guns and be like, "Hey, stop eating animals." Then nobody gets hurt.
well, if it went back in my youthy days, we kind of thought that would have been a good idea. The whole vegan revolution stuff, like all the hardcore kids we were kind of on that page, and I'm glad that most of us never did anything like that, because this is one of those things that we do have to we have to beat them with words and ideas, and money so talks. Like when Beyond Stock was doing well, I mean, probably remember all these companies, even like Tyson Chicken, those motherfuckers were like, oh, let's get on this and have a vegan option. Like it really is so tied to economics. And if it's all supply and demand too. Similarly, have you guys been abroad a bunch or much at all? So specifically, why are there companies in America that have amazing vegan options in other countries and not here? Answer, it's all about economics and kind of like the different ways that politics and stuff like that are tied to all things in food and other. Example, Australian Domino's had vegan cheesy bread. They had vegan pizza options, like straight up on the menu, not like some secret hush hush bullshit. Uh, McDonald's in a couple other countries had vegan burgers. Burger King in I was just in Italy last year, had like a whole bunch of stuff. And why? Well, they still have the Impossible here, but why is it so much better? It's because there it's just a whatever. Like it's just the way someone's eating is cool, and here it's like tied to this left right political nonsense where everybody should who's an animal lover or cares about the climate should be, or cares about their health, should be like, yeah, I'm gonna not eat this garbage. I'll choose the other option. I think it really comes down to that, of figuring out how to talk to people better, which we weren't great. I mean, even I gotta own this as a 20-year-old talking about veganism. I am positive I would turn most people off to it as a self-righteous little jerk. I probably was. So we just have to get better at that. And And what's the best approach? I honestly don't know. I think we got to leave it to the younger generations to figure that out, because I'm Gen X. Gen X can talk okay to other generations, but I mean, if at 52 I'm like still hip, that's a weird world.
I think the best approach is that it depends. It depends on who you're talking to. And instead of having a pre-made script, you can't do that. You need to ask them questions. If somebody's not vegan, ask them, how do you feel about animals dying? Ask them, have you killed animals? And sometimes I'll run into hunters and other people, and it's a little bit harder to have those conversations because they're like, I just went out in the woods and killed some animals this week. I don't care. It doesn't make me feel bad. And like for me, I'm probably going to move on and find somebody that's a little bit more open and receptive to hearing my message right now. Someone that's like, oh my God, I could never kill an animal. Well, okay. Well, what do you think happens when we pay for them to be killed? Do we?
So I think hunter is a separate lane too, and I don't necessarily think because someone hunted, it puts them in a you can't have a conversation with them lane, unless they're going out to kill something just to kill it. And that's not that many hunters. Like I said, I have known people in the military. Like there were these Marines on this base that I was at that for fun they would take some of the local stray dogs and like break their necks and like leave it out in front of people's hooches uh, for fun. I think when you're in that mind space, it's going to be very difficult to, like we're not talking about, my dad in the 80s or some other person theoretically who, shoots a deer and then feeds their family. And then, maybe it was like part economics and part, well, they're still eating meat anyway. So it's like not that much different. We're not talking about that. We're talking about someone who enjoyed the physical act of taking a life. That's a person we're probably not going to reach ever. But here's the thing. If we're going to talk, let's talk neutral in a neutral way about politics. Of all the people we might be able to reach about progressive politics, do you think the guy who thinks it's cool to walk down the street in an SS uniform is going to be the person that we're going to be like, hey, let me talk to you about single payer healthcare? No, that or the dude who's wearing a pointy white, fucking Ku Klux Klan bullshit. No, these people are like so far off. I mean, would I love to be able to get everyone on board with both veganism and the hey, let's not be a douchebag politics? For sure. But there's some people who are self-identifying as, dude, I'm on my own train, and you don't want to be on this train with me. Okay, like I think you should be on a watch list. But if that's your thing, I mean, I guess it's a free country. I think freedom should have its limits. You can quote Sergeant Vegan as saying that. I don't think you should be allowed to do that, whether it's choke puppy dogs and break their necks, or dress up and play cosplay with hate group stuff. But that's just me.
I think you're around a lot of like-hearted people here. So I'm gonna be mindful of everybody's time here. And at this point, you've done this for a long time. If you had a room of other activists or hopefully listeners that want to be activists, or other people that have been activists for many years, like Gary Yourofsky, for example, in your own journey, like what unique insights about veganism and activism would you like to share to help educate other people following in your footsteps?
Thank you very much. In my opinion, and I'm positive that there are instances where this rule does not apply. In general, I think the rule of don't be a jerk at least 95% of the time is better. I think occasionally the when someone slaps down a you stupid motherfucker or whatever, I think occasionally that opens eyes, and someone's like, whoa. I but most of the time, all of the yelling and fuck youing and angry stuff I did as a punk rock kid, I think all that only helped to close minds, close hearts, and have people just to completely write off whatever I was saying, even if it was the absolute God's honest truth. And I would extend that to people who will not associate with other people if they're a non-believer. So as in like I disown my family because X, Y, and Z. I don't believe that. I think family and friends should be able to be a bigger thing than whether it's politics or eating, and you should not lose friends and family to it. I can understand how the latest political climate is kind of an exception, but that political climate will change, and I think estranging your friends and family doesn't help. Also, for people who would say, "Oh, in a way, they think that they're justified by this by cutting people off." I think the Big Tent policy for veganism works better when more people are happy to join to whatever capacity they can. Even if it's just one meal a week or whatever. And when we exclude people or make people feel unwelcome, and then it makes it into kind of like they identify with meat companies or whatever more than they do like the thing that's in their face with the how veganism is better for the world. I think we're doing the world a disservice. So definitely be nice, and maybe that if you could find that 5% of the time where you got to be a little salty, great. But in general, like being a jerk to someone, even for the animals, I don't know if that helps. I would love it. I would love to be proven wrong, but I think most people, even when they said, "Oh, I wish someone had opened my eyes," I'm pretty positive when I was like, "Go vegan or go fuck yourself." I don't think that helped much because I said that a bunch.
Yeah, it's hard when you're so passionate about it and you know what happens to kind of control your emotions in the beginning, because you just want, like, you feel so many emotions about it and you think that if you pass that forward to somebody else, like maybe they'll feel it too and maybe they'll wake up. I think something else that you said earlier, like telling your story as if around a campfire or something like that. I kind of, what came to mind for me was sharing your story on social media. We might not come to fame like Michael Jordan and inspire somebody to play basketball, but we can share our stories. Like, I think that the fact that you go by Sergeant Vegan, are open about your experience of being in the military and navigating veganism through that, like that empowers somebody to be like, okay, I can be in the military and be vegan. Or for you, John, I can build muscle and be a bodybuilder and be vegan. Like, I'm not limited by that. So I appreciate you being open about your story as well, and taking it on as part of your identity, open with other people, and also being here and just sharing compassion and helping educate people through your own ways.
And I think too, we carry right now a lot of responsibility. And like Bill, you can't be too hard on yourself for doing what you did at 20. How many role models did you have to teach you and show you the way? I think that's our job now, is to help train the next generation. And also, remember that we are such a minority right now of people that actively claim vegan, that those who do have become the unofficial role models and spokespersons for this. So you probably weren't going to convince anybody else in the military to go vegan by you doing it. Probably not. Maybe.
No, people were interested though, but
Yeah.
it would people people are were interested, but I think generally speaking, people are more receptive to it when you don't preach, you actually teach him. And by that, I mean, by example, when they see you doing something great, or you're in shape, or you look good, or you're feeling good, they're going to be, oh, well, what's this guy doing that I'm not doing? What should I? That's gonna do better than some fire and brimstone and crap. I mean, in general, I'm sure there's the 5% of the time where a bunch of hateful whatever might help, but I just don't think it helps that much. I mean, the thing that spread veganism the most, it was not all the protests I went to as a teenager or when I was in college. It's the internet. And why? all of these, we were able to spread all these ideas. And then companies got the idea, oh, if I made something without the animals, which is actually cheaper, these people will buy it. And then when they get it and then they show it on the internet, more people are getting it. And it's like a cyclical thing. The more of something, the more it's like a positive feedback loop. And that's what spread veganism. All of the meat, hand jammed meat is murder signs. They know it's sexy to do that kind of protesting, but I don't think it's as effective as the positive marketing of vegan products. And then the more people are vegan, the more products are bought, the economy of it. So we need to keep up the good work and stuff like that. Unfortunately, even though climate change does require like immediate action, if we do it in a negative way, people get turned off by us, which it sucks. I would much prefer I could just go outside with an angry sign and that would do more. But I think you know positively spreading it, just the psychology of humans works better.
I think so. And my point for the people that got to see you in the military, they might not go vegan, but now they have a different idea of what vegan is when they think of the word. They think of you and they think of how you made them feel and the interactions they had with you. Closing point. I want to be clear, like I don't think being mean or angry or yelling at people helps wake them up. I do think referring back to what Gary told us, language is important. Cows aren't artificially inseminated, cows are raped. If we say it like that, it makes people think. And in my own journey, my friend didn't yell at me when she said, "You're eating a hamburger, so you're killing a cow." But she said it pretty matter of factly. And it wasn't, I don't think it was unkind and it wasn't mean and it wasn't with an attitude. It was just honesty. And I knew she cared about me as my friend. And I think that's what made me start to think. And then reading the PETA magazine on the way to middle school, it angered me. It said on the cover, "Why vegetarian isn't enough." And I'm like, the fuck do you mean it's not enough? I'm not killing anything. And it made me think. It didn't tell me what to do, but it made me think. And so I think that's what we need to do is we need to wake people up to where they can think. And usually I would agree with you. Probably even more than 95% of the time, you tell somebody fuck you, their immediate thing is how do I defend myself from this threat versus how do I hear the information being given to me. So I think you're right. Sometimes the signs, they can get attention and they can get more stuff posted, and sometimes a little bit of controversy can be a good thing for us. But at the end of the day, I guarantee if we can get the economics of this right, the world will go vegan. If bananas cost more per pound than beef, we'll have banana trees.
We are very much on the right path to that. Unfortunately, animal ag is a powerful lobby and is definitely not going to stop. And I think if we were able to figure out a way to fight fire with fire, fight their marketing with other marketing, I I think you could do a lot. And I think things are cyclical. I think next administration, when it brings back a lot of the greener agenda, I think it will also bring back a renewed interest in this stuff. I mean, we're now back 30 years where we were with climate policy. We're currently bringing back coal. Like that's what we're doing now. So I think people and the girlfriend and some other people disagree with me, but I really think a majority of people take their direction from the top. They see where they like sniff the air and they're like, "Oh, okay, this is what we're doing." And aren't able to independently think like, "Oh, this is me and this is how I do." They're like, "What's the leader say? Okay, this is what we're doing." I think there's some exceptions, but I think that's generally how things are. Like, uh, I drive an electric car. I have for a while. Uh, it's not virtue signaling. It's just it makes more economic sense and it's better for the environment. But there's now no incentive for people to get an electric car because that 7,500 that they could have gotten back in their taxes is not there. Why? Because now we're incentivizing coal and fossil fuel and stuff, which is the opposite direction. So I guess what I'm saying is people generally take kind of their direction from the top. There's some outliers, like we're outliers, but a lot of people are like that. And we just need to figure out a way to best speak to these people and kind of peel them off from the masses until we have, like you had said, John, that 50%, and then all bets are off. I think it'll be a very different world. And I think we're going to hit 20% once the boomers are gone, once Gen Z are now when Gen Z's in charge, I think we're going to be at 20% or more.
It's honestly, it's a better product. Veganism, it's a better product than eating meat. It's an easier sell. People have had to be tricked so hard to be eating meat at every meal. And so, like, I think it's a better product. And so it's easy for me to sell veganism. I believe in it with my soul. And so I think that we're going to see that switch. I think we're just very early in on this, early investors.
You are so right, and that is the quote I think of this hour. Think about how much you've been tricked into eating a dead, cut up animal versus some plants. Like the if you walk by a decaying squirrel, not many people other than RFK are going to be like, "Ooh, look at this delicious treat left here by nature on the road here." Most people, some people might vomit. Like I see. I don't think there's a gross thing that I haven't seen with my own two eyes. I don't think it exists. I don't think it exists. And I don't think most people would see what I see and be like, "Oh yeah, yum." I mean, there's that, like I said, that 1% that are their brain is wired differently, and they might think that. But I think most people, when they if you gave them the choice between killing a squirrel or a cow or whatever versus eating some texturized soy protein burger, they're going to pick the soy burger. But if you package it the same way and then you whisper some lies at them, they'll be like, "Oh, okay. Of course I'm manly. Of course I don't want whatever goofy thing that we're saying at the moment, like soy boobs, whatever the fuck, like lies." You know, it is very silly, but it's very true. Like that, people have been lied to, and will keep pushing the lie. You say it enough times, it becomes the truth to them.
Totally. I think there's a lot of power behind our words. Like, we have been convinced as a society that we need to eat animals through the words of ads. And I think a huge opportunity that I hear a lot of that I think vegans can take advantage of is not saying it about an animal, not saying, "Oh, I'm not killing anything," saying, "I'm not killing anyone." When you're talking about a dairy cow or an animal that is in the industry, don't say like it experienced this. Like, say he or she is experiencing this. Like, I think that it's very slight, but I think that it could potentially break somebody out of that matrix of seeing an animal as an object with no feelings. You actually get them to be like, "Oh, they're a who," they're not a what or a thing. So yeah, I think that could be really powerful for the vegan movement as well. Just giving animals actually speaking about their individuality.
We need every vegan to speak up. If we have this kind of red hat movement in the United States, and we saw a lot of red hats and flags and stuff. If every vegan had a green hat and a green flag or a green shirt, and we all wore it and we all said we're vegan, if everybody spoke up, we'd be heard a lot more. So anybody listening to this, you can do that. And Sergeant Vegan, thank you so much, brother. It's an honor to get to do this work with you and to frankly have the road a little bit easier for me. You made it a little easier for me, and we'll make it a little easier for the next generation. And one day we'll have that 50% will take over. So you guys make sure you go follow him. We'll put his links down below. Keep spreading this message. That's one form of activism anybody can do. Share a story, like post, like comment, like put this stuff out there, because social media is powerful. That's what most people don't watch the news anymore. They watch social media. So if we can share it there, we can help change the world. So that's our goal. Thank you so much, brother. And thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you guys subscribe. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to another phenomenal episode of the Vegan Squad Pod. I hope that you're feeling inspired to pursue activism in your own way. That was our goal when we set out to launch this podcast. We want to help inspire other vegans to find their voices. But that's not all we do. We also have the Vegan Squad coaching team, where we help people find their way to veganism, and we help vegans get even more fit. This, for me, is another form of activism. The more that we can elevate the lives of the vegans that work with us, the more the rest of the world will see us living our best lives and be a little bit curious. Additionally, every single one of the coaches on the Vegan Squad coaching team is 100% vegan. So you know that by supporting us, you are literally supporting other vegans. Exclusive for listeners of this podcast. If you'd like to work with us and hop on a free call, click the link below. One of our expert coaches will reach out and help you elevate on your fitness journey. If anything that you learned today on this episode was useful to you, please share it with a friend, and we'll see you next week.